Greetings and welcome to all of my fellow passengers on the spaceship Earth. This is the show Ask an Astrobiologist, the NASA Astrobiology funded show where we talk to scientists from around the world who are doing advanced research in astrobiology and trying to figure out those big questions about, are we alone? What is life? How do we find life in other worlds? And how do we explore for life beyond our own solar system? These are all very big questions, and there's a lot of people who are trying to answer them right now along with us as we travel around our little star. I am Dr. Graham Lau, one of your co-hosts of the show. The other co-host is Dr. Sanjoy Sam. We take turns going back and forth once each month, talking to another awesome guest astrobiologist. Our show is also sponsored by SaganNet.org. Chances are most of you right now are watching this either on SaganNet.org's live stream or on the NASA Astrobiology Facebook page. Before we get to today's special guest, though, and talk a lot about astrobiology, we have some fun stuff to do first, like our monthly background quiz. So you might notice behind me right now is a cool picture of some astrobiologically relevant place on the planet. And every month we ask you on the interwebs to tell us what this is a picture of. And so the picture from last month was a pretty cool spot that actually occurs in the Aeolian Islands in Italy. This is the Gran Cratere. It is a volcanic island. It's actually called volcano or volcan. And this is where the name for volcano first originated from this one volcano on this island. And so the Roman god of fire, both good and bad fire, was Vulcan. You might also know for the start that the planet Vulcan was in the show Star Trek, where Spock came from. There was actually a point in time in our own history where scientists thought a planet that they called Vulcan was very close to our sun. But it turns out, and the reason that they hypothesized that is because the orbit of Mercury seemed very strange for our knowledge of physics at that time. But it turns out we didn't need a planet named Vulcan close to the sun to explain Mercury's orbit. What we really needed was relativity. But so thank you very much for everyone who went to Twitter and told us where that picture was located. As usual, we take a first, second, and third place winner for those who got the answer right. Our third place winner this month is Ismael Acosta, who is now one of the new young scientists with the Blue Marble Space Institute of Science. Ismael will get some NASA stickers for taking third place. Our second place winner is Elizabeth Hutton. Elizabeth will get our NASA stickers as well as some of the graphic histories from NASA Astrobiology. And then our first place winner this month is Henrietta Lukacs. And Henrietta will get the stickers as well as the graphic histories and also a SaganNet drinking glass. So congratulations to all three of our winners. We're also now doing something new where we nominate an ambassador of the month, someone who's really worked hard to ask a lot of questions, to share information about the upcoming episode and about our upcoming special guest. And this month, our ambassador of the month is Astrobiology Tweets, at AstroBioTimes on Twitter. So thank you very much for all of your support and sharing our show and the things that we're doing. So without further ado, let me introduce our special guest for this month. Our guest is a research scientist at the Earth Life Science Institute in Tokyo. He is Dr. Yasuhito Sekine, and he's joining us now from Tokyo. So Dr. Sekine, thank you very much for being here.
Hi, I'm Yasuhito Sekine. Yeah, I'm very happy to be here. Nice to meet you.
It's great to have you on the show. In Ask an Astrobiologist, we have a lot of questions from the audience that we'll get to eventually. So for our audience watching at home, as we have our conversation, if you'd like to ask some questions, you can use the hashtag AskAstrobio on Twitter or ask directly on the live streams. But first, let's talk a bit about your research and what you do at ELSI. What things really drive you right now in astrobiology?
Yeah, I'm currently doing the science about ocean worlds in the solar system. So Earth is not the only planetary body that has liquid water. We have multiple ocean worlds in the outer solar system, such as Jupiter's moon Europa, Ganymede, and Saturn's moon, Enceladus, and Titan. Those icy satellites are mainly composed of a mixture of ice and rock, and surface temperature is extremely cold, less than minus 100 degrees Celsius. But the interior can be warmed up by heating from the rock component. So now we know that some of these ice moons, Jupiter's moon, Saturn's moon, have subsurface ocean, liquid ocean beneath the icy crust. So I'm now doing the research about the ocean world in the solar system, especially focusing on the icy satellite world.
Very interesting. So, what got you interested in that research in the first place and looking at these icy worlds?
Oh,
So,
yes.
so what inspired you to do this research?
Okay. So the major reason is that those icy moon has liquid water. As you may know, the liquid water is ingredient for life, one of the ingredients for life. The astrobiologists consider that there are three fundamental ingredients for life. That one is liquid water. The second one is organic materials, and third one is energy for the driving the life activity. So those icy moons have liquid water. So we're considering that one of the possible habitable place in the solar system. So that's my major motivation to research about the icy ocean worlds.
That's very cool. So, if I can, let's take a step back and consider. So, what was your career path? Where did you go
Mhm.
to school, and what did you study to now become the scientist that you are?
Yeah, the first I when I was kindergarten school, my father gave me a book of star and book of life. Those are my favorite things. So since my childhood, I had been very interested in both space and life. So when I enter into the undergrad, I noticed that there is a new research field of astrobiology in the university. So I entered into the astrobiology research group, and I get a PhD at University of Tokyo. And during my graduate school, I went to United States. I worked in NASA Ames Research Center in 2004 to 2005. So it, timing is just overlapping with the beginning of Cassini mission. So just so that's my start of the uh, research of icy ocean worlds, and also the my start of international collaboration.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I was an intern at NASA Ames in 2007, so close
Oh, really?
to when you were there. So what kinds of missions have you been involved with then? If you were working at Ames, and now you've been studying icy worlds, have you been involved with various missions with NASA or the European Space Agency or even JAXA?
Yeah, the since 2004, I was working with the researchers who are involved in the Cassini mission. The Cassini mission is the the mission for Saturn and its icy moons. And I'm also now involved in JAXA's mission, Hayabusa 2 mission, and also ESA's Euro's mission, JUICE. The JUICE is another Jovian system, and will be orbiting around Ganymede, one of the icy moon of Jupiter. So now I'm involved in these two missions, and also, I'm working with some researchers in US and Europe to consider future mission to icy moon and also Mars.
Oh, that's awesome. So it sounds like you have a lot of international collaboration then, having worked with other researchers from various nations and various space agencies. What is that like? Is it difficult with language barriers and cultural barriers, or do you have, or is it easy because you're discussing science with people?
Yeah, the language barrier is relatively big for me. But yeah, if we have a same science background, we can talk uh, through the not only the word but also including the body language or something. So I think the if we have same science background, yeah, we can do the international collaboration. But the language barrier is still high for me. So the if
Hmm.
native English speaker, the two or three talk to each other, I can understand only 70% of the one sentence. So the if several conversations continues 70% times 70% times 70% goes to almost zero. So I sometimes lost the discussion, but yeah, I try to catch them by doing the I asking question them. So then I can follow their discussion.
Interesting. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, at least you can maintain the conversation then.
Mm.
So you did mention Hayabusa 2, which for our audience is right now visiting Ryugu, an asteroid in our solar system. And you
Mm.
also mentioned Mars. So it sounds like you're doing a lot of things in icy worlds and asteroids and Mars. Is that difficult to study so many different planetary processes?
Not much because my focus is water. The water and its chemical reaction is my background. So I'm a geochemist and doing the laboratory experiment or numerical modeling of water rock reaction or water relevant chemical reaction. So this water or chemical reaction already ubiquitous among these planetary body. For example, Ryugu is just a small asteroid, but we consider that Ryugu was one of the parts of the relatively large parent body, uh, which called the planetesimal. In that planetesimal, the scientists believed that the liquid water were active within the planetesimal and cause a chemical reaction between the water, liquid water, and rock. Those chemical reaction the trap the liquid water into the rock, and we can now see the water-bearing minerals, clay mineral, called clay minerals on the surface of uh, asteroid Ryugu. So those are really similar on Mars or uh, icy worlds, or even on our planet Earth. Those chemistry is really ubiquitous. So it's not so difficult to do different planetary objects. So yeah, I think one important message to the junior high school or high school student, if they are listening to this program, I'd like to suggest that the very basic chemistry, very basic physics is really important because if you understand those very basic chemistry, physics, those are really ubiquitous, and you can do many science using the those fundamental things. So yeah, that's my message to high school students or junior high
Awesome.
student. But yeah, asking to your question, yeah, it's not so very difficult for me to do the different planetary object research.
Mhm. That's incredible. Yeah, it's a pretty
Mm.
awesome message for young people. Learn the basics. So can I ask then? So a lot of astrobiologists kind of study, extraterrestrial worlds or exoplanets, or they do research on Earth. But I understand that you, besides studying icy worlds and Mars and some of these other places, that you've also done some field research on Earth. I'm wondering if you can tell us a bit about the places that you've gone and what kind of research you do on Earth to better understand what's going on out there.
Yeah, I have been doing field research on Earth. It's including the field research to U.S., Canada, Australia, Scandinavians. India, and Central Asia, Mongolia. So those are very, different direction of research. But I'm now proceeding the research project uh, of field research in Mongolia because we consider that the current climate and hydrological water cycle in Mongolia may be very similar to Mars or even current Mars condition. Because as you know, the Mongolia is really highland and very dry. And also the Mongolian mountains have some permafrost. Upon the recent global warming, those permafrost are starting to melting. And the Mongolian people are worrying about the permafrost melting. But I'm considering that those situation, melting of permafrost in a high area, may be very similar to early Mars condition. So now we're doing the field research. What kind of the hydrological water cycle is going on Mars, and what kind of microbial life can survive or living there. So yeah, that's a current ongoing research project of the field research on our planet.
Interesting. So, do you think the microorganisms that you're looking at then are there things that they're doing, creating minerals or creating biomolecules, things that we can then maybe with Mars 2020 or an upcoming rover, could we directly look for some of those signs? If there are things like that on Mars, is that possible?
Yeah, I think so because we observed the melting of permafrost, and the permafrost traps methane gas. So those are methane cryogenic trap preserving beneath the surface, and upon the melting of permafrost, the methane are bubbling into the surface region. So we found some methane-eating bacteria near the surface of I mean, in the region where the permafrost melting occurred. So on current Mars, there is an argument that the methane spikes are occurring on Mars or not. But we consider that the such a really small spikes of methane is very important to the microbial life because for some microbial life, the methane can be a food or energy for them. So I think, yeah, the Mongolians, the permafrost ecosystem could be a mimic of Martian possible ecosystem. So I
Oh,
think
interesting.
understanding the ecosystem on such a dry and cold area is very important. Not only for the finding life on Mars, but also to protect Mars from the Earth's contamination. It's called the planetary protection. If the bacteria or archaea or some life from Earth to Mars, it's gonna be a contamination. So we need to avoid such a contamination. We need to protect not only Earth, but also we need to protect Mars. So understanding the possible ecosystem or hydrological cycle is very critical, not only to finding the Martian life, but also to protect Mars from Earth's forest contamination.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah, I do know that there's someone whose actual title is Planetary Protection Officer, and that's a pretty cool title to have. Can I ask though, since you were in Mongolia doing research, some of us are lucky enough to travel to these remote places on the planet to study, the field geology and the microbiology, and to try to understand more about life here, to look for life out there. So what was it like in Mongolia? What was the field research like? How remote was it? How far away from some civilization? And how long were you there?
Yeah, we usually stayed in the field 1 week or two. The location is very far from the central Mongolia. Central Mongolia is Ulaanbaatar. The Ulaanbaatar is yeah the center of Mongolia, and almost 1/3 of the people all over the world are living in Ulaanbaatar. And to reach to the research field from the Ulaanbaatar, it takes 3 days or 4, and we stayed in Gel. Do you know Gel? It's
Hmm.
the kind of camp tent of the local people.
Hmm.
The local
Okay.
people having sheep or goat, horse, and they move with them. So we stayed in Gel to do
Hmm.
the research, and yeah, it's a really fantastic experience. Yeah,
Hmm.
we are now interested in motion recurring slope linear, which is the dark streak features appeared in summer of Mars on the steep slope. It's a narrow and dark streaks appeared on the surface of Mars only during the summer. So some researchers consider that those are produced by the melting of permafrost, the melting of underground ice during summer. But other researchers suggest that those are formed by the dry process. So we found the very similar dark streak feature in Mongolia, and we need to go there to see how those dark features formed and yeah, what kind of mechanism driving to create such a geological features. Yeah,
Very
yeah.
interesting. So, we have Earth atmosphere and 1 bar of pressure at the surface where those are forming. Is it hard to make that analogy to what's happening on Mars to say that these things are
Mm.
similar, or is it really a good analog for what we might see on Mars with these recurring slope lineae?
Hmm. Yeah, I think the major difference is the gravity. The gravity changed the velocity of the liquid flow on the surface. So if the velocity is different, the formed geological features may be totally different. So we need to do the theoretical work to scale the whether we can scale the geological feature on Mars to geological feature on Earth to Mars. So the scaling is very important. But I think the major physics or chemistry occurring on the permafrost melting area would be common between these two planets.
Interesting. That's really awesome. I do want to interrupt real quick and remind the audience you can ask questions right now for Yasuhito Sekine on our live streams on seganet.org, on the NASA Astrobiology Facebook page, or you can go over to Twitter and use Ask Astrobio as a hashtag to ask any questions you have. I see that we already have a whole bunch coming in, so we'll just chat a little bit longer and then the audience questions. So, Dr. Sekine, if I may, I want to change now a little bit to talk more about you as a person, about the things that you do in your life, your hobbies, your interests, that help you to make all the science worth it. What things make you happy to go to show up every day?
Yeah, my major hobby is the doing the research, but yeah, my second hobby is baseball. Yeah,
Oh,
when I was junior high and high school student, I played baseball every day, and I do not study very much. And currently, I do not do baseball very much, but just watching the baseball game and a TV show with some beer and snacks. Yeah, that's
nice.
my favorite time in the weekend.
So, for our audience at home, can you tell us how popular is baseball in Japan? And is there a specific team that you think is the best?
Yeah, in Japan, the baseball is very one of the most popular sports, and I'm very fond of the Hiroshima Cup, which is yeah, the Hiroshima Cup won 3 times in a recent year, and season. So currently, the Hiroshima Cup is one of the best team in Japan. And also, I'm a fan of San Francisco Giants and Oakland A's because I stayed in U.S. from
Mhm.
2004 to 2005 and in Bay Area. NASA Ames is located in the Bay Area. So I frequently went to the baseball park to see the games of San Francisco Giants and A's. That's a really good my memory. Yeah.
Mhm. No, that's awesome. I was fortunate. I just saw or walked past at least the San Francisco Giants stadium while visiting my co-host Sanjoy Sam out in San Francisco. It looked like a very beautiful place. So before we open it up to the audience questions, let's just talk a little bit about some hypotheticals. What do you think is the most likely place outside of Earth in our solar system where we might find alien life?
So you mean the living life or fossil of life? Which is
Let's say either. Do you think there's another world in our solar system that likely had or has life?
yeah, I think there are multiple locations that can harbor life. For example, the Saturn's moon Enceladus and Jupiter's moon Europa. These two icy moons would be the best place to look for living life because these two moons are having liquid water and possibly organics and energy. These three things are really important for habitability of life. And Enceladus meets these three ingredients for life. So I think the Enceladus and Europa would be the best place to find the living. The difficulty to finding life is that those far from our planet. So we need to send a large spacecraft, and if we want to confirm the living life, we need some sample return from those icy worlds. So the sample return would be a really technically high barrier and also high cost. So yeah, that's the one of the main issue. And if we talk about the fossil of life, then we should go to Mars. The Mars was habitable place. The many lines of geological, geochemical evidence strongly suggests that the Mars was once habitable, which means this planet had liquid water, organics, and also energy. So if the current Mars is very dry and very cold, but if we try to find the fossil of life, we should go to Mars. So Mars could provide very fundamental information on on uh, the how life begin on the planetary body. It would be very essential to understand the origin of life on Earth because currently there are almost no evidence of what kind of environment supports the birth and early evolution of life on Earth. But those evidence can be found on Mars. So Mars is very important place to know not only the extraterrestrial life, but also the origin of life on Earth.
Interesting. Yeah, so maybe along those lines, if someone gave you unlimited money to send a mission anywhere you wanted to, where would you send it?
uh, yeah, I want to send a spacecraft to Enceladus and also Titan. Titan is my favorite place because, yeah, the Titan has a liquid methane on the surface, like it methane lake, methane ocean on the surface. Those are really exotic place. I don't know whether those kind of the condition suitable for life, but the Titan is really exotic place. But yeah, and Enceladus is really good place to find life. So I want to do the sample data mission from Enceladus.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. So I am going to open up now to our audience to ask questions. Just a reminder, use hashtag AskAstrobio on Twitter or ask the questions directly in the chat from sagannet.org or in the NASA Astrobiology Facebook page. But let's just start seeing what the audience wants to know. So our first question comes from user AstroBioTimes, who was our ambassador of this month. And they ask, what career path would you suggest to young people from other places in the world, maybe specifically to those places where astrobiology isn't really a well-developed field of study? So there are some countries where astrobiology isn't available as a course in college. Maybe there aren't as many astrobiologists working. What would you suggest for young people who want to study astrobiology from those places?
Mm. Yeah, that's a really good question. Yeah, I have no clear answer, but even today, I have been receiving the email or letter from the other countries that who want to learn astrobiology in Japan or yeah in LC. LC is my appellation, but so those are kind of keeping the contacting with the researcher is I think very important and yeah.
Okay. Awesome. That
Yeah.
sounds like a good some starting advice. And watching our show, I would also say would be good.
Yeah, this show is also good opportunity to learn
Well, thank you very
people.
much.
Yeah.
So we have another question from Elizabeth Tasker, and Elizabeth wants to know if we find life on one of these icy moons, how close would that life be to life here on Earth? Say compared with finding life on Mars or somewhere closer, but specifically a place like Enceladus or Europa, how similar would it be?
That's a really interesting question, and I want to know the answer. So that's a reason why I need to do the sample again. But I think the availability of the bioessential elements such as carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur, and oxygen, those are different between the Earth and icy moons. So I think especially the phosphorus may be depleted in icy body compared with Earth. The Earth's rock contains a relatively high abundance of phosphorus compared with the rock in icy moons. So we can use phosphorus. So DNA contains phosphorus, or we need phosphorus every day. But on life on Enceladus or Europa may not be using the phosphorus because the phosphorus may be depleted in those uh, planets. So they may not use DNA or RNA because of the depletion of phosphorus. So that a large difference between Earth's life structure and the icy moon structure. That's my opinion, but yeah, we need to check this possibility.
Interesting. Yeah.
Through the sample latent. And yeah, if there is no life or lifeless satellite, it's gonna be very. It's really very interesting to me. So Enceladus is a habitable place. Yeah, it contains the liquid water, organics, and energy. So it's habitable. But if we find in the future the Enceladus is lifeless satellite, it's really important and interesting. So we need to think about why the Enceladus is lifeless despite of it's habitable. So it could tell us about some insight into the what is the real requirement for the origin of life. So we need to find many habitable places in the solar system, and we need to check whether these are really life are there, or lifeless planet. So that would provide what kind of the factors or components necessary to emerge life on the planetary body.
Mhm. Very interesting. So the next question comes from Valdir Chara from Twitter, and it's kind of a similar question, which is why we have it here, I suppose. If there is a chemo-autotrophic life in Enceladus's ocean, is it possible that there might also then be larger trophic chains or food webs of organisms, an ecology that we can actually look at or look for?
Mm. Yeah, within the answer of this, the energy can be formed by the hydrothermal reaction. The hydrothermal reaction is a high temperature water of reaction that produce the hydrogen. Hydrogen H2 is food for microbial life to produce methane or to produce hydrogen sulfide. But to make a large ecosystem or complex life, we need more oxidant. The hydrogen is reductant, and we need oxidant. So these two difference in the chemical chemical potential provide and control the size of life. So we have hydrogen within Enceladus, which is the strongest reductant within Enceladus. So if we have strong oxidants such as oxygen, or ozone, or hydrogen peroxide, those going to be a large potential. So if we have these two extreme strong oxidant and reductant, that can maintain the complex life or complex ecosystem. So, but we still don't know we have hydrogen within that Enceladus, but we have almost no idea about the what kind of oxidants are available in Enceladus. So currently we found CO2, carbon dioxide. So those potential is not so large. So currently I consider that the complex life or complex ecosystem cannot be maintained within Enceladus. But if we can find the strong oxidants within Enceladus, the kind of complex life or complex ecosystem could be, could have occurred.
Interesting. So what would we need to do to figure out what other oxidants might be present for that to occur in Enceladus? Is there a specific instrument that would be best to send there?
Yeah, the oxidants are usually formed on the surface of icy body through the solar UV radiation. The solar UV radiation dissociates H2O ice, and hydrogen escapes to the space, and oxygen remains on the surface. So if we can find O2 or ozone or hydrogen peroxide, H2O2, on the surface, and those oxidants on the surface could be eventually enter into the subsurface ocean through the recycling of the surface icy surface. So the key measurement is key measurement is the analysis of the surface icy materials on Enceladus. That's the same for Europa.
That seems very promising then, since it's much easier to access the outside than the inside. To move it along, our next question actually comes from my co-host, from Dr. Sanjoy Sam. And this kind of goes back to when you were discussing whether or not we could learn more about the origin of life, the necessary ingredients for the origin of life in Enceladus. So Dr. Sam asks, do you think that all the ingredients for the origin of life stem from one specific kind of environment? Or is the origin of life possible from ingredients from many environments?
Yeah, that's a really interesting and a good question. I think the mm, the cycle of materials is very important. The only in a one pot that we cannot make life because the in a one pot the the materials are always within this environment. So we need some cycle or circulation of materials. So this circulation provides, for example, oxidant from the atmosphere to this region and the reductants from the deep crust or deep sea area to one place. So the circulation is very important. So yeah, I think we need to consider the what kind of hydrological cycle or material cycles are occurring on our Earth. It could provide some chemical product to one place where the life can be formed. So yeah, I think the multiple environment would be important, but the more important thing is how connect the multiple environments on our Earth.
Interesting. And so yeah, that was a very cool take on it. Our next question comes from Tony Gia. And Tony asks, since you have been to so many interesting and extreme environments on Earth, what was the most interesting place that you've been to?
Uh, in my career, in the past,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Let's open it up the whole way and say in general, what's the most interesting place?
I want to go to Antarctica. That's my one of dreams, and yeah, those conditions are also same to also very similar to RE Mars or current Mars. So yeah, I want to go to the extreme environments. Yeah, very cold and arid.
Awesome.
Yeah, the
Yeah, I'd love to see that
is,
too.
yeah. Mongolia is
Yeah,
really
cold and
nice
penguins.
place. Yeah, especially in summer. The in Mongolia the basically very dry throughout the year, but only August, July, a rainy season due to the Asian monsoon. When I went to Mongolia in this season, the ground really different. October or September, the ground very brown and dark and really ugly. But only in the summer, the green, the ground are everywhere, and yeah, that's a really beautiful place. And I believe that yeah you can if you go to Mongolia in the summer season, you can see the whole of the green all over your views. And I think the Mongolia is one of the place closest to the heaven. It's a high place, and I can see only sky, blue, and green ground. So yeah, I like that. Yeah,
That's awesome.
environment. Yeah, but my dream is go to the Antarctica.
Very cool. Yeah, you sold me on Mongolia. I have to go now. Our next question comes from Elizabeth Hutton, one of our winners from this week for our background quiz. And Elizabeth asks, how would you respond if somebody were to come up to you and ask, what are you doing to help the future of Earth?
Oh, help the future Earth. Hmm. Uh, in terms of astrobiology or in my research?
She didn't say, so let's just say yes.
Okay. I think the important thing is that if we find life in the solar system or beyond, whichever is the very tiny bacteria or complex life, it could tell us that we are not alone in the universe and we are not special in the universe. Also, that we mean that the Earth's life is one big family. Those kind of concept is very important to in the upcoming very difficult age of Earth. That if we can really understand the Earth's life is one big family, it's gonna change our world. So I think the body of the astrobiology maybe to realize ourselves as a one family. So yeah, that's the only yeah that that's a yeah astrobiology can do this, but other
Mhm.
science, for example, I don't know the chemistry or mathematics may not be able to do this. The astrobiology only can tell us this new concept. I mean, provide us this concept. So I think the astrobiology may not be able to really support our life in the future, but it can change our concept or our view. That's I think the more important than the some technique or technology.
That's awesome. Yeah, so I'm not sure if you've heard of the overview effect. This is what astronauts feel when they go to space and they look back down and they see the Earth and they feel this awareness of us as a family on Earth, as you mentioned.
Mm.
So I have a fun question. If you had the chance to go to space, would you take it? And what do you think you would feel looking back at the Earth?
I mean, if I go to space and
Yeah, and look
yeah,
back. Well, how do you think you would feel looking back at the Earth?
I have no idea about that. Yeah, I want to go to space. That's my another dream. But yeah, I think yeah. I also feel that the Earth is one planet, and we are living one place. So yeah, we are one family. Yeah.
Awesome. That's kind of fitting with the person who asked our next question, Dr. Jim Pass, who runs the Astrosociological Research Institute. And Dr. Pask wants to know, what does the ubiquity of life on Earth tell us about the possibility for life elsewhere in the solar system? And maybe more specifically, what are your thoughts about the idea of panspermia?
Mm. Yeah. Uh, I'm supportive of panspermia, especially from Earth and Mars. We have already many Martian meteorites, and if we investigate the Martian meteorite, the interior of Martian meteorite is not so very. Uh, I mean, it does not experience high temperature or high pressure. So the exchange of materials between Earth and Mars possibly occurs even today, and also more frequently in early stages of the solar system. So I think the Earth and Mars may be, uh, yeah, may have similar lifestyle. So yeah, I think that we can, yeah, I mean, consider the Earth life type as a standard uh, to look for the life from Mars. But I see moons such as Europa or Enceladus. It's really difficult to exchange material between our planet and those icy bodies. So that we need to think about the wide range of possibility to find life for these icy moons.
Mhm.
Did I
Awesome.
did I answer the question?
Yes, I believe so. Let's ask another question. This one is from Facebook, from user Stephen Weber. And Stephen, so the question was, what are American PhD student prospects for study in Japan? But I'd like to broaden the question a little bit, and ask, what are the opportunities for students, PhD students, and beyond, from other countries to come and work in Japan for ELSI or just in Japan in general?
Yeah, I think the contacting the people are really important. And to do this, we need to first know the who are doing what kind of research. So if the students are interested in some research topic, they may read a newspaper, magazine, or web. Then they can go more deep into the what kind of research are those researchers doing through the web or through the magazine, and then they can gather information through not only through the web but also from paper or something. So yeah, I think the communication is very important, and currently we can have a communication much more easier than the than the past. Uh, so yeah, I think that sending an email or calling in the office or really, yeah, a good way to communicate with the researchers and yeah, doing the research in other countries.
Hmm. Awesome. Yeah, we really are very connected these days on our planet. I mean, our show has audience members from around the world who watch and tune in, and it's great for us to be able to connect in this way. So let's go to another Facebook question here. This one from Tom Caruso. So Tom wants to know if you think that cold ocean waters favor life formation over warm ocean waters. So like the ability to hold gases, changes in pH, the availability of minerals and iron. What kind of implication does that have then for places like Enceladus and Europa, the temperature of the fluids themselves?
Mm. The low temperature is good for the stability of some organic materials. So in terms of the lifetime of survivability of complex organic materials, the low temperature will be better. But in a low temperature, the chemical reactions are also slow. So it may be a trade-off between the life required complex organic materials. But those are in a high temperature, those are relatively easily destroyed. But we can get the more energy at the high temperature, so we can fix the the complex organic materials. But in a low temperature, these are very, I mean, complex organics are really stable, but we can get only small amount of energy. So it may be a trade-off. So I do not have a clear answer whether the very low temperature, such as 0 degrees Celsius, would be good for the origin of life or the evolution of life. But the one thing I can say is the low temperature is good for the stability of.
Okay. So you're involved with the Juice mission. We also have Europa Clipper that will launch here before long and go out to Europa. Would these missions give us the ability to better understand the temperature of Europa's ocean and maybe have a better understanding of if it's cold or if it's hot?
Yeah, I think so. The yeah, I just said I'm involved in the JUICE, Jupiter Icy Moon Explorers, led by ESA, and also yeah, Europa Clipper is a very yeah uh, nice mission to Europa. And if we see the surface salt materials or surface materials, it could tell us about the what kind of the chemical composition of ocean of Europa or Ganymede. So the chemical composition of ocean is determined by the interaction with the rocky core on the sea floor. So the chemical composition of water reflects the interaction with the rocky parts. So we can understand what kind of temperature uh, at the deep sea floor. It's like a tea things. So if we have a tea leaves and we put very high temperature, 100 degrees, hot water, then we can get a tea. But if we put the 0 degrees Celsius, very low temperature water, we can get a different type of tea. So if we taste this tea, we can get some information of the what kind of temperature and how long the chemical reaction was going on in the bottom of the sea. So the exploration of Europe's ocean composition is I think, very similar to the tasting tea and tasting different types of teas, and we can understand what kind of the tea leaves, and which temperatures those tea experience. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I think,
Awesome.
understanding the chemical composition of the surface and the ocean is very critical to constrain the water of reaction.
I have to admit, the tea analogy is now my favorite analogy for understanding the composition of the oceans of these icy worlds. So let's move to another question. This one comes from Jay Weezy on Facebook. And Jay wants to now go to our moon. And Jay wonders if our moon offers anything beneficial for your research, especially since there's talk now of this tentative return date for getting humans back to the moon. How does the moon fit into the research that you're doing?
Yeah, moon is very important place to test some technology. For example, the landing, and also going back to the space technique, and also the lowering technique is required to test. So I think our moon is a really good place to test such kind of the space exploration technology. So if we, did not have our moon, it's very difficult to do the technological test. So we are very lucky to have our moon.
Nice, that's very cool. Kind of wrapping up now on time. We only have a couple of minutes left. So before we finish the episode, I do want to know what are the next big steps in your research? What's the next big question that you're trying to answer right now?
Yeah, I want to answer whether the current Mars is habitable. And we know that the past Mars is habitable, but we have almost no idea whether the current Mars has liquid water or liquid brine, and whether there's sufficient to support life. So I want to know what kind of the environment are there are on current Mars, and whether they are habitable or suitable for life. So I want to investigate those things through the space mission. So I'm one of the members of JAXA's next Mars mission. So in the next Mars mission by JAXA, I want to investigate the chemical environment on current Mars.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Next mission.
I look forward to reading about it in the future. And for any young people who are watching, as Dr. Sekine said, reach out, send them an email, send researchers emails who are doing this stuff if that sounds interesting to you. So for all of our audience who are watching, we're going to try something new this month and start asking people at the end of every episode to answer a fun question about the conversation we just had. So that's going out right now on the @NASA Astrobio Twitter page. So you can find the question there and respond with your answer of what you think is cool. And so I just want to say, Dr. Yasuhito Sekine, thank you very much for joining us for Ask an Astrobiologist.
Thank you.
It has been a pleasure having you.
Yeah, me too.
And then to our audience at home, thank you very much. Bye, everyone.